What's up, YouTube? Today, we are going to talk about guitar, my first love. I remember being really young and listening to bands like Aerosmith, The Eagles, and Foreigner, and just thinking, man, I really want to play guitar. In fact, Foreigner's song Jukebox Hero, which is arguably their cheesiest song, was like my Rocky Balboa theme song. And for my 5th birthday, my dad surprised me with my first guitar. I remember it like it was yesterday. I heard him call from upstairs.
Christopher, get up here right now.
I thought I was in trouble, so I very hesitantly walked up the stairs and into his room. And sitting right in the middle of his room was a cream-colored, 3/4 size knockoff Stratocaster. And my eyes just lit up. I couldn't wait. I was going to be the next Joe Walsh. So my mom immediately signed me up with a guitar teacher at a local music shop. And I remember the feeling of walking into my first guitar lesson. My heart was just in my throat. I walked into the little practice room, sat down across from my very cool looking guitar teacher, pulled out my brand new axe, and eagerly awaited my virtuosic enlightenment. Now, before we play any notes, let's just take a minute to get to know your guitar a little bit. This is called the neck of your guitar. These are your strings, and it might seem backwards, but... What was this? I came here to be a jukebox hero, and now I'm sitting here counting strings and learning about frets? Where was my Zeppelin or my Sabbath or my Hendrix? Where was my goddamn enlightenment? It's time to play your first note. So take your finger, put it right here on the 6th string on the 1st fret. Now push down and pluck the string. And it was at that moment that I realized guitar is fucking hard and boring. And I left that lesson not wanting to learn anymore. Lucky for me, my mom doesn't play that shit, so she made me go back again and again and again. So throughout my childhood, I bounced in and out of lessons. I'd get bored, I'd want to quit, and then inevitably I'd get dragged back by my mom. And while I never really stuck with lessons long enough to develop a robust guitar vocabulary, I did stick with them long enough to get bit by the bug and start exploring on my own. I learned how to pick out my favorite songs by ear, performing at elementary school talent shows, then I started writing my own songs, and then playing in bands, and touring, and so on. The rocket had left the launch pad, and it was headed to the moon with a full tank of fuel. But then, after about 25 years of relentless writing, recording, and playing, that fuel suddenly and unexpectedly ran out, and the rocket came to a screeching halt. Like I said, guitar was my first love, and it's been my main squeeze for most of my life. And just like a lot of other relationships, after being together for so long, it sort of feels like the mystery is all gone. And we've just sort of fallen into the same routine and patterns of daily life together. Other instruments have caught my eye, and the allure of guitar has started to fade. Let's put it this way. For me, if drums are the hot and heavy forbidden love affair.
Oh, you want me to hit it again? Dang, already? All right.
Then guitar is sort of like the stale, old, predictable marriage.
You know, I think Shark Week is on. It's fun. It's cool.
Now, on guitar, my bread and butter has always been writing and being able to sing while playing some pretty technical stuff. But one area where I feel like I've always been lacking is improvising. I can play solos and I can write solos, but I've always had a very hard time improvising solos. So if I ever found myself at, say, a jam session, I would either stick to 1 or 2 strings, choose to play drums, or avoid the session altogether. But I feel like if I were to learn to improvise, it would open up a whole new world to me. So that's what I plan to do. Now, it might just be from where I'm sitting, but it seems like learning to improvise would take a lot more practice and focused effort than learning how to write a song. It requires knowing things like scales and arpeggios and chord shapes and keys. Basically, all of the stuff that I got bored with in guitar lessons. And getting those things internalized enough to where you can be spontaneous and in the moment. So to start out, I'm gonna check out Drumeo's sister site, Guitario, and see if there's anything on there that can help me take my first steps. So let's get to it. So Guitario, much like Drumeo, is a music learning website for guitar. And again, like Drumeo, it has a Guitario method, which walks you from beginner all the way to advanced, although I must say it seems a little bit less robust. And it has all of these courses. I am not going to do the Guitario method from beginning to end because why? Doing the method seems like it would be way too fucking crazy. But I am gonna find a course on improvising and take that. So we'll go to topic, improvisation and soloing. Perfect. And right here, second from the top, learn to solo in an hour. That sounds good. I've got Dirty Stevie right here, and let's dive in and see what this nice young lady has to say. The most important scale for soloing. I'm gonna take a guess that it is the minor pentatonic scale. What do you think? Comment below.
So let me show you the scale that I've been talking about. It's called the minor pentatonic scale.
I fucking knew it! I immediately feel like I am back in guitar lessons right now. Tons of guitar players have built entire careers off of the back of the minor pentatonic scale. It is the bread and butter of blues soloing. It makes sense that they'd be starting with that.
3, 4.
Okay, I'm gonna skip to the next video because I'm bored.
In this lesson, I wanted to talk a little bit about what a guitar solo is in the first place and what makes a good guitar solo. I think spending time right now to really
I'm gonna skip that lesson and go to building a lick vocabulary. Why don't we build our lick vocabulary?
So lick number 1 sounds something like this.
All right, let's see what the next lick is.
And now here's lick 3.
If you saw my video on the top 5 tips for sucking at music, then you'll remember something that I said about the Goldilocks zone of music learning. You don't want something to be too hard, but you also don't want something to be too easy because you'll get bored. And guys, I am bored just with how long I've been playing. So let's see what else we've got. Mastering the blues scale. 6/4 blues scale shape. Honestly, you guys, like seeing tablature really fucks me up.
6/4 blues scale shape. I like to call it the 6/4 scale shape from an academic standpoint. A practical standpoint for this one, I think is more calling it something like the 3/1 blues scale shape.
Guys, I'm so bad at guitar learning. I'm just realizing this now. If learning drums is like figuring out a coordination puzzle, learning guitar is sort of like taking a math test. I'm not saying that this is for everybody else, but for me, guitar feels like studying AP math. It's just so expressionless, if that makes sense. It's good to get this stuff under your belt to express yourself through the guitar, but god damn it, it is so fucking boring. I don't want to do this lesson.
Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step.
Okay, so I am going to abandon the Guitario idea. Nothing against Guitario. If guitar learning is something that works for your brain, then Guitario is great. But I'm starting to realize something, and it's that learning guitar in a traditional way has just never really been all that interesting to me. So I'm gonna revisit it at some point on my own, but I remembered this episode of Guitar Moves with Josh Homme, where he's talking about the way that he plays guitar and the scales that he uses. So I'm gonna take a look at that.
So blues scale is
But I started saying, what if I take things out and I go,
Yeah, this is something I wanted to ask you about, because what the hell are you doing?
That would be the normal blues scale. And Josh's scale. That's fucking cool.
When did you figure that one out?
when I was 13 and I'm still doing it now.
That's amazing. See?
It's weird on the fingers. But it's fucking cool sounding.
There's all this like curtsying and shit. Like I'm curtsying, I'm going.
So I'm gonna take a Queens of the Stone Age rhythm. I wanna make it with you. And I'm gonna loop it, and then I'm gonna mess around with the scale. All right, it could use some work. So I am definitely nowhere near proficient on it, but it is a lot of fun. It lends itself better to a regular minor pentatonic scale. Right? Without the crazy. But it's fun to find a place to make it work. And sometimes, even if it doesn't work, if you just keep hitting it over and over and over again until it does, it sounds like it was intentional. So I'm just gonna roll on it and see what happens. I've literally never done this before. Never just let a groove roll and just see what I can do. We'll see. Oosh. A little ahead of myself. Okay, so that was actually kind of fun, and I learned a few things about myself in the process. First of all, I'm a little bit further along than I thought I was. By no means would I consider myself to be fretboard fluent, but it does seem like all of those years of playing guitar have amounted to something. I found that if I thought about things too much, I would get tripped up. But when I kind of zoned out and let the muscle memory and the ear take over, I was actually kind of surprised by what came out. Did I play anything mind-bending? Absolutely not. But was it as much of a train wreck as I thought it was going to be? I don't think so. Although you can let me know your thoughts in the comments. I also found that for me, and for where I'm at with guitar, it's important to find the right way to practice and the right source to draw that inspiration from. At the end of the day, Josh Homme's scale is just a scale, like any other scale. But the way that Josh presented his approach and the added challenge of trying to throw those odd notes in there every once in a while opened up a back door to scale practice for me. It was challenging, but it was engaging and fun. And that's something I've kind of never experienced when it came to learning scales. And lastly, I learned that, again, for me, my biggest blocker when it comes to improvising is mostly mental. The dexterity and the shapes and the patterns are all kind of there, but my lack of confidence gets in the way. So building and strengthening the connection between what I hear in my head and what I'm playing is probably going to be the biggest piece of the puzzle for me. I hear that singing the notes as you're playing them will help with that, so maybe I'll start trying it. The last thing I want to say is to remember that everyone's journey is unique. Where I'm at on guitar might be completely different from where you're at on guitar. And while this was my first real exploration with improvising, it's important to remember that I'm also working with a lifetime of playing guitar, and that you shouldn't look at this as a benchmark for where you should be if you're just learning to improvise. You might have an easier time with it or a more challenging time, but it's all relative to your experiences on the instrument. So just try to explore and let loose and have fun. Thank you all for watching. This whole YouTube journey has been interesting, to say the least, and I'm super glad to have you all along for the ride. So until next time, don't forget to enjoy the process and embrace the suck.